Changes may be coming to the way you vote for the Charleston County School Board in the future. I sit down exclusively with legendary Post Inquiry columnist and author Brian Hicks for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Brian Hicks, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, it's good to be here. Good to see you.
I appreciate it greatly. And thank you for coming to join me on Quintin's Close-Ups at the last minute, because there's so much developing news coming from the Charleston County School Board and the Charleston County Legislative Delegation. And I just went back and actually read your article, really your column from January, and I know you just updated a couple of hours ago. But it reads this: no matter how vile and disgusting Washington politics get, every member of Congress can take solace at least in one thing: they aren't on the school board. There's nothing nastier or more divisive than school politics, where the problems are complicated and every decision has direct and immediate impact on people's kids. What problems are complicated when it comes to the Charleston County School District in your mind?
Well, any change you try to make is going to directly impact somebody's kids, and they're probably not going to like it. You look at this middle school situation in West Ashley.
Right.
You had two middle schools. They built a new middle school, and everybody's saying, well, got more people zoned for the bad middle school, which I don't know that it's bad. My kid went there. And then you got, the good middle schools getting a new building. They said, okay, well, everybody can go there. Well, then everybody starts raising Cain again. It's like, how do you make everybody happy? And, the parents over there are, I'm not sure what their concerns are, but they say that the board doesn't listen to them. And, that's what happened. You saw that happen when they tried to close the school out around Young's Island or wherever it was. And what happens is no matter what the school board does, and I'm not saying they're infallible, they make plenty of mistakes, but anything they do, they're going to have a couple of hundred parents down there screaming at them at 75 Calhoun. And so that's why school politics have always been the worst.
How many mistakes has the Charleston County School Board made with the decisions to basically close West Ashley Middle School, or want to close West Ashley Middle School? And then you think about obviously the choice schools and the magnet schools. How many mistakes do you think they've made?
Oh, man. As far as personal preference, I couldn't count that high.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would have closed Lincoln High School and bust those kids to Wando. Of course, the board members, and I, politely disagree with them all the time about this. They'll say, well, you know what? Lincoln did not have a high enrollment, and now these kids get to go to one of the best high schools in the state. They just have to ride a bus for, 30 or 45 minutes to get there. But the community didn't want it closed.
Right.
And that's what the politics of schools are all about. It's like, do you do what you think is best for the kids, or do you do what the parents want? And I don't think there's any way to ever satisfy all the parents. You look at what's going on with Buse.
Right.
They're trying to change this and open Buse up to where more kids from the community, more diverse set, kids from out Hollywood Way, Johns Island, could get into Buse. Well, that's cutting down on the seats that other people can get in, and so those people start raising Cain. I don't know what the right answers are. I'm not on the school board. I'm not crazy enough to try. But, it's almost impossible to win.
And you also go on to say this: whatever Charleston County School Board members do, you just mentioned this a second ago, no matter how fair, transparent, and vetted it is or isn't, they can expect to get yelled at, cursed out, and routinely condemned. How fair and transparent has the school board been in your mind?
They haven't been really fair. In some ways, there are a lot of schools that are underfunded, underserved. They're difficult problems. And shutting down a bunch of schools that have a small enrollment, they catch grief about that. I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not. But I think that talking about this for 10 or 11 months, I think that's fairly transparent. We had stories in the paper just about every week saying this is what they're doing. Right. Now, parents have argued to me pretty loudly, too, that no, they're not transparent. And no, you don't see everything they're doing, but who can sit through all those committee meetings? Parents can, for sure. We can, to the best of our ability.
Sure.
But then, was it transparent to switch gears on West Ashley Middle Schools? No, that wasn't transparent at all. Because at first they were going to have the 6th graders go to the old Middleton High,
Right.
the 7th and 8th graders go to this one. And then at the last minute they change it. I can understand being upset. I'm not sure who gets hurt by this, but I understand that's a fair criticism that they're not being transparent in that case.
In that case. And you also write this too, all for less than minimum wage, but the past few months have put our regularly scheduled school board bashing to shame. The district has been attempting to make radical changes, shuttering and combining schools, reconfiguring some magnet and changing admission policies at others to make room for children from the underrepresented areas. Some of the ideas are pretty good, others not so much. The community response, however, has ranged from outrage to nuclear meltdown. What other ideas are not so much good in your mind, and what other ideas are good in your mind?
Well, I'll tell you what I think is good. You look at Academic Magnet High School, one of the top high schools in the country, great place.
Yeah.
Most of that enrollment right now is kids from West Ashley and Mount Pleasant. And if they want to open up some more seats from kids in more rural areas or North Charleston, I think that's good. Now, personally, do I think they should shut down these neighborhood schools and combine them? I don't, but I'm not. They're worried about making budget. They see this as a dollars and cents thing, except when they don't. You know, they had, they did that 10 years ago. They shut down a bunch of schools, and what they did was they shut down schools that were quote unquote failing and moved those kids around, disseminated them out into other schools. And a lot of critics said that what they were doing was taking kids that didn't have the greatest test scores and diluting those grades in other schools and shutting down schools that looked like they were performing below average, so they could say we have less failing schools now. But it's hard to do that. It's like the one out around Edisto.
Right.
Do you really want those kids to have to ride an hour? That's my problem with Lincoln High. Do you really want those kids to ride for an hour? So is that a good idea? Depends on which way you look at it. I don't like it personally. I understand why they want to do it, but you just can't win, and that's why I would never run for the school board.
You also write this too, quote, "It's gotten so bad, the county's legislative delegation has now taken an unprecedented step of trying to undo all the district changes and put every member of the school board up for re-election on the November ballot. Is the district changes legal in your mind?"
I haven't seen anything that makes me think that they're illegal.
Okay.
They're wildly unpopular, and I understand why the legislative delegation is doing this.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to go very far. I mean, this legislation's already passed in the House.
Right.
And I know that a lot of people, like Leon Savernakis, are getting just unmitigated grief saying, you got to stop the school board. I don't think that they can change the way the board is elected and put everybody on the ballot in November. I think some senators have already pointed out that's probably unconstitutional.
Right. Yeah, Larry Groom said that. Yeah.
And I think he's right. I also think that it gets very complicated when you want to change the way the board is elected. You know, right now, there's a residency requirement.
Right.
Each seat has to be in a certain area, but everybody in the county votes for them.
That's right.
And Representative Stravonakis' idea is to go to single-member districts like county council or legislative delegation. Now, normally, I am a huge single-member district guy. I think that that's how you get diversity, minority representation, and make sure that every area has somebody there on the board. The funny thing about it is you've got the Charleston County School Board that's all elected countywide, yet it has more diversity than county council or any other, government body in this county. So I think, you have to think about it a little bit about whether you'd want to do that or not. And, I don't know if it's the best thing or not, but I understand parents are frustrated. Somebody's going to win and lose. And I hate to use that word lose. The school board certainly wouldn't use that word lose, but somebody's going to win or lose. And I think what's happened is they have tried to flip the script, and some kids who have been quote unquote losing are now getting a little more opportunity. And I think it's upsetting some of the parents who are afraid that it's going to cut down on the opportunities their kids get.
And I know, obviously, when I was just reading Jenner's article that is about the updated version about obviously this bill might making it into the Senate, and I know Larry Grooms basically says that, I believe he says that this particular bill that the House is proposing may need some more work. What exactly do they need to add to this to make this work in your mind?
I don't know. I think that's a convenient thing to say. I'm not sure he knows. Honestly, my prediction is that you're going to have a senator, and it may be Margie Matthews,
right?
Maybe Grooms.
Right.
They put a hold on it, it goes nowhere. And that's just the way it works in the Senate. One guy can hold up the whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see if they debate it. I don't know what you would do, but I think that you would have to... I think you at the very least have to wait on the new census data before you could draw districts for the school board.
And you also go on to say this in your column. You said this quote, what Leon Stavronakis is doing, you said this quote, that is practically a recall. State Representative Leon Stavronakis, D. of Charleston, submitted a proposal to have board members elected from single-member school districts, like members of the county council or state lawmakers. Currently, school board member seats are tied to specific geographical areas, but voters across the county elect them. If this was to be proposed or actually passed in the Senate, what geographic areas in this district will be affected or even helpful as far as this particular bill being passed?
I think that you would probably see the peninsula of Charleston not have any representation. And the way those districts are drawn, I'm not sure how much representation. I think Mount Pleasant and North Charleston would be fighting it out for some membership. I don't really know. We were debating that the other day about whose council district specifically represents the peninsula, and honestly, I didn't know off the top of my head. But the way I've heard it,
right,
that the peninsula shares a district with much of the Neck area and lower North Charleston.
Right.
And I think that's where you're liable to see more people. You're liable to see more representation in North Charleston. Not that North Charleston couldn't use it. They've got a lot of schools.
You also write this too. Tied into one area, and by design, there will be more focus on benefits for the schools in their field them. There could be definitive winners and losers, kind of like they are now. These recent mission-critical plans, that is, have tried to rectify some of the inequity. When you look at the district, what inequity problems do they have right now?
I think that some of the high poverty schools have been underserved. And I think that I don't think the board has been callous or ignored that. I think it just takes a lot of work, and I don't think they've been able to get there. And I think they're trying to do something here. Whether it works or not, I have no clue.
And you also said this too, quote, most recently, folks have directed their ear at the board's plan to consolidate West Ashley's 2 middle schools. Folks used to complain that more students in Charleston's most populated suburb were zoned to attend the bad middle school, which is perception, not fact. The board says, okay, everyone can go to the good one with the new building, and everyone can get even madder. Maybe their argument is about overcrowding, which is fair, but it's easy to see how some parents might interpret these protests as otherwise. Like maybe some people think that their kids, but no one else, should have a choice. But then, if you look back to, obviously, the sales tax referendum many years ago, what do you say to parents now?
In response to what?
West Ashley Middle School?
I think that they definitely needed a new middle school. Do they need two? Probably. But I don't know what this is about, other than everybody gets to go to a new school and they're going to let all grades go there. I don't understand what the problem is, other than the fact that they're already talking about putting kids in trailers outside.
Right.
That's the only problem I can see with what their solution was. I don't think it was, particularly smart of them to say we're going to do it this way and then at the last minute switch gears. But, they do that on everything because they react to parents coming down there and raising Cain. I don't know if that's the best education policy or not. I don't claim to be an education expert, but I don't understand what everybody's mad about when West Ashley's about to get a big, nice new middle school, nicer than their high school, other than the fact that it's going to be full from day one. Yeah, they should probably be spending more money out there, but, people raise Cain about that.
2 weeks from now, what will be the headline of your column when it comes to the Charleston County Legislative Delegation and the Charleston County School Board?
Good question. Well, if it happens in 2 weeks, the headline will probably be Delegation unable to make changes to the district. Because I doubt this will fly. I doubt the Senate will go along with the House changes.
Sandy Sin, is there any possibility that she can get somebody else from the legislative delegation in Charleston County to co-sponsor with her?
She could possibly do that. I mean, she wants to see changes.
Okay.
And she can't get one of her colleagues to take a hold off of one of these bills. But she can maybe come up with something. And she's actually probably fairly key to this because she is the one person in the Senate who's in line with what the House did.
Right.
So if Larry Groom says this needs some work, maybe he'll work with her on this and they'll come up with something that's more in the middle that doesn't, fire school board members in the middle of their term.
To be continued.
To be continued.
The legendary Brian Hicks, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you.
Likewise.